The new Samsung Galaxy S24 series are here, and here's everything that you need to know. The S series just got smarter than ever, thanks to the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy, and even the Exynos 2400 for Galaxy. AI has been mentioned so much lately in anything and everything, but only now have I seen it in a smartphone in a way that users can actually see it in action. Let's start with the design. As always, we have three devices, so the S24, the S24 Plus, and the flagship S24 Ultra. Straight away, you notice that we now have a flat display across the board, which I like as I'm not a fan of curved displays at all. There are plenty of color options available as well. The bezels are smaller, making the screen slightly bigger, with the S24 at 6.2 inch, the S24 Plus at 6.7 inch, and the S24 Ultra at 6.8 inch. The two base models have what Samsung calls an enhanced armor aluminum frame and uses Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 for durability, whilst the S24 Ultra features a titanium frame, new Corning Gorilla armor on the front and Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the back, because we mainly tap on the front and expose the front more than we do the back of the device. Using that Corning Gorilla armor also means less reflection when watching content, and Samsung says it's 4 times tougher. For the S24 Ultra, you still have the S Pen, but that's also improved slightly as well, as it's now thinner, and on the bottom you notice a new speaker grille design, and up top 2 microphones. Another thing to note here is that the speakers should sound a bit louder because you've used some software tricks to enhance that area too. Overall, the design feels a lot sleeker, premium, and not like it's not already premium, but this makes it even more smarter in hand and feels pricier when holding it in hand. Next, we have the display. All the devices are packed with a dynamic AMOLED 2X display with adaptive refresh, so LTPO tech, that can go from 1 Hz all the way to 120 Hz refresh. They've also improved the touch sampling rate as well, and you also get adaptive vision booster. Where they differ besides the obvious screen sizes is that the S24 has a Full HD Plus resolution, whilst the S24 Plus and the Ultra has a QHD Plus resolution. In the settings, you'll be able to select which refresh rate you'd like, as well as some of the display settings we're already used to seeing in Samsung Galaxy devices. They all offer a minimum of 2600 nits of peak brightness, up by 40%, and can even give you an increased perceived level of brightness. And compared to its predecessor in direct sunlight situations, so we simulated one here, you can also see the difference clearly, with the new devices offering more readability in bright light conditions. Overall, I think the display looks fantastic, whether you're watching movies or gaming. You can even zoom into your video, for example, on YouTube, and you can see how detailed it is. You can see the level of detail that you get even when you pinch and zoom in. Gaming looks good as well, and in the settings, you can either toggle on Dolby Atmos or Dolby Atmos for gaming for even better immersive experience. Before we go into the camera, let's get some processing power, battery, all that kind of information out of the way. This year, Samsung has decided to go back to using Exynos 2400 for Galaxy in some regions, but only on the base models. The S24 Ultra will use the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy, meaning it's tuned for the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. It means better ray tracing when playing games like Diablo, and also better processing and graphics performance generally. While it's hard to say until I fully test this out, it seems very smooth and responsive. Samsung also increased the cooling system as well by increasing the vapor chamber by 1.9 times. This is the same across all the devices, so we should see the devices staying cool under pressure, and again we'll be putting this to the test. One of the key highlights of the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is its AI performance, and Samsung says whether you have the Exynos devices or the Snapdragon variant, you'll still be getting the same AI experiences. As for the software, that will come with the latest Android operating system. You get the latest One UI on there as well, which allows you to do all sorts of customizations, but the highlight here for me is a promise for 7 generations of OS and software upgrades. Keyword here is 7 generations and not 7 years. Take note. For storage, the S24 gets 2 options, so you get 128GB or the 256GB options. The S24 Plus gets either the 256 or the 512GB, and the S24 Ultra gets 256 all the way up to 1TB, which will be useful for people creating those 8K video content. The S24 gets 8GB of RAM, and the bigger versions gets 12GB of RAM. And the RAM across all devices is the fast LPDDR5X, and the storage is UFS 4.0. For battery and charging, the S24 has 4000 mAh battery with 25 watts fast charging and 15 watt wireless charging. The S24 Plus has 4900 mAh battery with 45 watts charging and 15 watts wireless. And the flagship Ultra gets a big 5000 mAh battery with the same wireless charging as the S24 Plus. Connectivity also differs between the devices, so the S24 and the S24 Plus uses Wi-Fi 6E, although no ultra-wideband on the S24 base model. The S24 Ultra uses Wi-Fi 7 and has ultra-wideband tech, so if you're going to be using it to connect to your car, for example, like the BMW or Tesla, etc., this would work for you. Okay, onto the camera. I know you guys are waiting to hear about this. The S24 and the S24 Plus gets a 50 megapixel f1.8 aperture dual pixel AF main camera. It gets a 10 megapixel f2.4 3x optical zoom and a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide angle camera. They can shoot 2x, 3x optical zoom and 30x space zoom. The S24 Ultra gets a 200 megapixel f1.7 super quad pixel lens, 50 megapixel f3.4 aperture 5x periscope zoom, 10 megapixel f2.4 telelens and 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide. You'll also be able to shoot 2x, 3x, 5x and 10x optical and 100x space zoom that was seen before. All the new units have a ProVisual AI engine, meaning all images will be enhanced for the best image quality when taking photos and even videos and when it comes to editing them as well. Now, you might be wondering, what about that 10x zoom that you might have seen in the leaks? Well, Samsung have included some trickery with a 1.6% larger pixel size and 2x wider OIS. It takes such a large image resolution that when in 10x, it can scale it down to still be a really good image quality, and it's really hard to tell the difference when I was comparing them. Using AI multi-framing and AI super resolution, you get optical quality images across all the zoom range, so there's nothing to worry about here at all. With the larger pixel size coupled with gyro stabilization, you also get better night photography and videography as well. The S24 Ultra can shoot super resolution at 200 megapixel, 8K at 30 frames per second, which I can't wait to test out and compare to other devices on the market now. You can now even shoot 120 frames per second in UHD, and that 200 megapixel sensor is actually newer as well, in case you're wondering. Now you can shoot 24 megapixel expert raw photos now, and it uses multi-frame processing, which is really good. In the camera application, you also notice that direct to view is now called dual record, so don't think that's gone missing. Zooming from one range to another is also now less janky, so it's nice and smooth across the range. And another cool feature is being able to press and hold videos for slow motion. And I'm not sure how I would use this just yet, but it looks very satisfying just testing it out on this, pouring some honey on pancakes and stuff. And this will work with any videos as well, so this should be pretty fun to use. Okay, the biggest news across all these new devices for me is Galaxy AI. It unlocks so many great use cases for AI that I think users will love, and that's what I'm more excited about more than anything else with the new launch. First one for me is the use of the S Pen on the Ultra to be able to circle anywhere on your device on an image, for example, to give you information about what you've circled. So a bit like Google Lens, but easier, and it just makes the S Pen a bit more functional. For example, you can circle an image and it tells you where to buy the items in the image from. Or if someone sends you a picture of a building, you'll be able to circle it and it will tell you exactly where that building is, the location, so you can go find it yourself. It's not perfect in any way, don't get me wrong, because for example, when I tried it on a picture of myself, you couldn't find me on the internet, although there's loads of pictures of myself on the web. It just returns some regular, just any black guy that you could find. Then we go into the phone settings and you scroll to the advanced features where most of the AI functions aren't on by default, so you have to turn those on. We should also note that some of these features are on-device, so the AI features use on-device system and some use cloud. It's almost like some sort of hybrid AI system. In the settings, you should definitely switch on everything because it makes it a whole lot better. You have calls for real-time translation, you have keyboard for writing assists, for chat translation, style and grammar, interpreter is great too, Samsung Notes AI features is there. You have voice recorder for transcription and summaries, you have Samsung Internet for summarizing and translating web page, photo editor can be used for resizing images and generating new backgrounds and so much more there. For privacy, you can select what you feel here because whether you want the data to be solely processed on your device or not, you can select that, you can toggle it on or off. But you should note that using the online features will get you better results when using AI. Just to show you a bit more, let's see some of them in action. So if you load up voice recorder app, for example, you can transcribe what was said or summarize it, and you can translate and so on. And you can export the data from that, so the notes from that, you can export it to PDF or Samsung Notes for later use. You can write a text message in your own way, for example, in the text message app. And using AI, you can generate various tone of voices that you want it delivered in. So if I type in, for example, hi, you might translate that to hello to someone else or whatever. You can see the example on the screen, it's pretty neat. And when you go to interpreter, it's not on by default, but you toggle it on. This will allow you to have a conversation in another language with someone else, and even allows you to switch sides. So if you place it on a table, for example, you can both share the screen and the other side will be facing the other person and the bottom half will be facing me, and you can have this conversation in your native languages and translate, which is pretty cool. In browser or Samsung Internet browser for now, so you won't be able to use Google Chrome for this. You can summarize the websites that you're reading to save time and even translate the page as well. In Samsung Notes, you can format your notes, you can summarize it, you can generate cover based on the note content itself, you can correct your spelling and grammar, and even translate text in your notes. In images, you can do a whole lot here. You can manipulate the images using generative AI. What this means is, say if you took an image of a skater, as you can see here, and you want them to look like they've gone up really high up in the air, you can cut out the image and move them quite higher up. And then from there, you can then, using AI, generate the rest of the gaps. You can fill in the gaps so it looks like you've taken it exactly that way. You can even use it to just straighten up the photo, for example. One thing that's also pretty cool is if you took an image that has shadow over the subject's face, you can get AI to suggest some edits for you. So when you go to a picture, it can suggest different edits for the picture. And it's not the same every time. It just depends on what the picture is and what it thinks you should correct. So in this case of a shadow, you can remove the shadow from the subject's face using AI, which is pretty neat. Another cool AI feature on the new Samsung Galaxy S24 series is the ability to be able to translate live phone calls in different languages. So let's show you a demo. So we're gonna phone a restaurant now to try and make a reservation for maybe a couple of people and see how that goes. You start to ring the restaurant, let's put on loudspeaker. You then have call assist, which you can tap. And it would do live translate, ready for this phone call to go ahead.
Hola.
Hi.
¿Cómo le puedo ayudar? How can I help you?
Hi, can I make a reservation for dinner?
Sí. ¿Qué día? ¿Cuánta gente?
Yeah, would you say how many people?
Yes, can I have it for 4 people? Just gonna end that. So basically that's how it works. You just make the phone call. It takes a bit of time between the transaction between mine and the other person speaking, but it's still very much helpful. And this is just the beginning. So just imagine when this becomes even more faster, more responsive, and being able to speak different languages wherever you are in the world. There's also going to be a One UI AI addition to the Android Auto when driving. This one I don't have a demo to show you because I couldn't take this out to drive. But what this would do is basically, for example, you might use GPS to communicate or link or integrate with your conversation. So if you got a text message of someone saying, could you get some food on the way home? It will automatically use the GPS and suggest some food locations where you can buy that said food along the way. So Chinese restaurant or just regular supermarket, it will suggest those along the way, just making life a lot easier and just making it more functional. Overall, I think this new Galaxy S series has to be the smartest, most intelligent Samsung Galaxy series yet. It's exciting that we can now see AI in action right in the palm of our hands. And although I forgot to ask about the IP rating, I think it's probably the same as before, but we'll put this to the test in our final review. For the price on that launch, you're looking at up to £1,549 exactly for the 1TB Ultra version. For the S24 Plus, it'll cost £999 for the 256, £1,099 for the 512GB storage, and for the S24, the base model, it will be £799 for the 128 version and £859 for the 256GB version. Over to you. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know what you'd like to see us do with this new device when we get it in, like reviews, comparison tests, and so on. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.